Hi everyone, welcome to the podcast Energy Toning, where we talk about all things energy medicine, consciousness, and how to raise your vibration. In today's podcast, I want to talk about the 3 things that you really need to be doing in order to give yourself the best chance of health. And these 3 things are just so basic, and yet most of us really struggle with doing these 3 things consistently with good quality, because it does actually take discipline to do them. And I also think that we think that they're so simple that we overlook them sometimes. So when I start with a new client, these are the first 3 things that I look at. The first one is how much movement are they actually getting during the day? And not just general walking and, from one place to another. Are they actually getting exercise? In so much, are they actually getting a sweat up? You don't necessarily have to be, doing a very hardcore exercise training program to sweat. You could just be doing a vigorous walk for 30 minutes. Or maybe sitting on an exercise bike or walking on a treadmill, or, even if you just did some basic bodyweight exercises, or maybe some Pilates. And you can actually also get quite a sweat up just doing yoga as well. So a lot of people associate yoga with, the mindfulness and slower movements. And yes, it is that. But there are also more vigorous forms of yoga. I think from my observations, and also just from observing myself, sometimes we can really trick ourselves into thinking that we're exercising more than we really are. And really the best way to be honest with yourself is to track yourself. Have a chart on the wall that you tick each time you do that 30 minutes of basic exercise, or, wear a Fitbit or some kind of exercise band on your wrist that tracks your steps and tracks your activity, because then you've got the hard data. Exercise is just so beneficial for so many systems of your body that it just, you can't ignore it. It's been proven to be excellent for your mental health. It gets the blood flowing through the veins, so you're flushing out arteries, you're improving your circulation. And when you exercise just for 20 minutes or more, you're kicking in those feel-good hormones, the endorphins, which is only going to be helpful for elevating your state. It also helps you sleep better at night. And that's where we get on to my next ingredient. One of the most basic ingredients for good health is that you really have to be sleeping well. You can't expect to be getting 4 to 6 hours of sleep every night if you haven't somehow optimized your sleep. And what do I mean by optimize? I mean that you have actually studied what it takes, what things you need to do to be able to maximize your sleeping time for 4 hours. So in order to understand more of the science of that, I would study sleep experts and what they suggest with this. Because some people, 4 hours a night, it's fine. They can actually get 4 hours. I'm definitely not one of those people, but I know it is possible for some, but you have to make sure that sleep is optimized. And so, things like dimming the lights down very much before you sleep, so you're not exposed to screens and any kind of artificial light for at least an hour before you go to bed. Also making sure you're going to bed much more before midnight than close to midnight, just because of the natural biorhythms of your body, which is in sync with nature. Also not to have consumed any caffeine after midday that day. Little things like that, and you can really start to optimize your sleep if you only are able to get a little, or you only want a little. For me, I prefer my 7 hours if I can get that. But this is the thing. We will sacrifice our sleep because we're so busy in our days, and we're trying to squeeze in as much as possible into the night, especially if you have kids. But there's so much evidence to suggest that when our sleep quality is poor, it just compromises our immune system and our mental functioning, and so many things, and that has such a knock-on effect on the rest of your body and your ability for your body to be able to heal and rejuvenate itself. So that is the next really basic ingredient, that if you're not getting quality sleep, then you really have to make some changes to get that. As sometimes it's impossible for people to get that because of young children or other things going on, but you just have to do your best to make the changes as much as you can that is in your control to do that. And third on the list is eating well, eating healthy foods. Now, the different diets around, it's such a loaded question these days as to what you should eat for the best diet, or what's the most healthy thing you can eat. I think it really comes down to knowing your body and what your body does the best with. Obviously, you're going to avoid processed foods as much as possible, and artificial colors and sweeteners and sugars and really high fat foods that are considered junk foods. So there's a few basic rules of thumb there, but then it comes down to your individual sensitivities. Some people will do better as a vegetarian, some people won't. Some people will do fantastic being a vegan and others won't. Some people will do fantastic being just on the carnivore diet where they just eat only meat, and others wouldn't. So you have to know your body to know what's going to be best for you. But basic rule of thumb: lean meats, as much vegetables as you can, and minimal breads. Just, and if you're going to eat breads, then whole grain breads. And in fact, I think probably one of the best diets, if there was any diet that I would recommend, it would be the Mediterranean diet. These things are just so fundamental that if you do have chronic health conditions, or you're just trying to maximize your health, if these things are not in place, it makes everything else really hard. It makes any supplements you might be taking not work very well, or even medications. You may need more medication than what you otherwise would if you could just get your diet, sleep and exercise right. I will leave a link below to a sleep expert. You can take a free online class as to how you can optimize your sleep. He has studied sleep for a long time and has some fantastic tips for optimizing your sleep, especially if you think you might be one of those people who can get 4 to 6 hours of sleep, but somehow you're still really fatigued. You might just not be doing it right. Anyway, thanks for listening today, and check out the links below, and I look forward to chatting to you again later.